Let's talk a little bit about Translink,
Sure.
which has been kind of off the radar since the plebiscite. Where is all of this headed, do you think, since the voters have said quite specifically that no, they don't want to spend a sales tax on improving transit. So what happens now?
Well, it's very interesting that Jordan Bateman, the guy who led the No campaign in that plebiscite, actually got a real live sit-down meeting with Todd Stone, the transportation minister over here on Tuesday, which to me is quite extraordinary, John, because up until now, the government had looked at this guy Bateman as essentially persona non grata with the government. I mean, ever since Bateman had emerged as the de facto leader of the no forces in that plebiscite, I mean, he was out there every day talking about these issues, about how he thinks they should fix Translink. He got tons of media attention. It was clear that what he was saying was resonating and connecting with the public as the polls quickly turned around, and he ended up winning that plebiscite. But the government strategy through the whole thing was just ignore him. And I remember talking to Todd Stone about him several times and other members of the cabinet, and they would just roll their eyes every time you brought up this guy. They say, he's just a complainer. He's a whiner. All he does is complain. He doesn't offer any solutions. They were not interested at all in what he had to say. Well, I guess after the no side won the plebiscite, I suppose they felt they just couldn't ignore him anymore, and he actually got this meeting with Todd Stone on Tuesday where they talked about ideas for reforming Translink. And I actually think that is significant. I'll give the government some credit for sitting down and meeting with him and actually listening to what he had to say instead of rolling their eyes and ignoring him every time. Maybe that's a sign, John, that they're actually interested in some fundamental reforms with Translink, although I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, one of the criticisms of Jordan Bateman was just that he was against everything, that he didn't really have any ideas for, how to run a major transportation company in a big city like this. And so what did he say to the minister? What's his plan?
Well, that was the knock on him, that he never brought any solutions, but it really wasn't true, because he did actually propose reforms, solutions, way to save money, and some of the things that he talked about was what he called a core review. If you remember back when Gordon Campbell was premier, he was one of the guys who coined that phrase in BC, a core review, where you actually look at an organization, whether it's a government, a ministry, a crown corporation, you turn it upside down, turn a microscope on it, and just say, what is the core responsibilities of this organization, and what are we doing that we really don't need to do? And what he has suggested is, let's do that with Translink. Let's take a real professional third-party review of how Translink operates, what its core mandate is, and how we can streamline it and make it efficient. And one of the things he's looked at is the multiple boards of directors on there, where we've talked about before how they've got 6 boards of directors for all the various different branches of Translink. All these directors pulling down, I think it's something like $250,000 worth of director salaries over the course of a year. And just saying, come on, do we really need these kind of levels of bureaucracy? Let's flatten this organization. Let's streamline it. Let's make it a much more efficient operation, and let's fix the thing. And it's interesting that Todd Stone actually met with this guy. Now, I think, John, that the first thing they got to do is fundamentally reform how Translink operates in terms of its governance, because right now it is unaccountable, and you need to set up a system, as you have said many times, that is accountable to the voters, and that requires action by Todd Stone. It requires action by the provincial government. And maybe if they're meeting with this guy that was basically their public enemy number one for so long, and now they're actually going to meet him with them, maybe that signals that they're willing to do something. But up until now, they just keep pointing the finger at the mayor, saying, "Oh, you guys fix it."
Yeah,
right?
Well,
the mayor's have got to fix this thing.
For sure.
No, it's the provincial government's got to fix it, because Translink is a creature of the provincial government. It exists because of provincial legislation, and that's what's got to change.
Well, and it's interesting to me that Jordan Bateman, and he's right. I mean, they're paying $750,000+ for all of these various board members, and are they necessary? No, probably not. But $750,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to when you look at Translink's overall budget. And I'm wondering, is he aiming for the low-hanging fruit here? And are there really does he really have ideas that are going to remake this entire system.
Well, certainly, he's not inside the thing and can't point at detailed changes that he would make because he's got the hands-on information about every aspect and nitty-gritty of how Translink operates. I guess that's why he's suggesting that you need a real professional core review that would come in from the outside and take a look at this system overall and find out where the redundancies are, find out where the inefficiencies are, and where they can make the savings.
Yeah.
But as far as those boards of directors, I take your point that $750,000 in the bigger scheme of things is, like you said, a drop in the bucket. But look, the main board at Translink, here's the problem. Nobody knows even how to fire these guys.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the legislation that governs Translink and you figure out, hey, if we don't like what this board of directors is doing, if they're making dumb decisions, we got to change it. Maybe we should get some new boards of directors. Nobody knows how to fire them.
Yeah, true enough.
They can fire themselves, but no one knows how to fire them from the outside. That's just ridiculous.
Smitty, appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you on the Simi Sarah Show coming up after.